Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, Goodreads, and I think that's as BookishStitcher, all one word. I hope you've had a great couple of weeks since I last podcasted. I first wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who wrote me messages this week, who texted, who sent me messages on Ravelry or Instagram, or who commented in the post about the reason why I couldn't record last week. I talked about it in different places, but if you didn't know, my daughter has started having severe allergic reactions to what we don't know yet. But she had one Sunday right before I was going to podcast, and I just was a mess. I couldn't podcast, of course, as I'm sure, and as so many of you understood, thank you so much. And I just wanted to say how much it meant to me, those messages, like when I was having hard times throughout the week and coming back from doctor's appointments and stuff for her, and just I would come home and I would read them and I just feel like I was getting a hug from a friend. So thank you so much. And I was like, oh, should I podcast this week? But she hasn't had any more big reaction things and she's been on medicine. So, hopefully she'll be okay for a little while playing with Daddy and her brother while I podcast. And honestly, I haven't gotten to go out and see friends because the last knit things that have been going on, I've just stayed at home because I didn't want to be away from home. So I haven't gotten to talk about knitting with anybody for a little while, and I feel kind of sad that, I'm missing that social aspect of my life. And so I really wanted to come on here and just talk about it with you, and then hopefully later chat with you on the Ravelry group thread about different things. So that's why I'm podcasting today. You may see, hopefully, if I can figure it out, on YouTube, there may be a little advertisement on the bottom part now for the thing. Normally for the last year and a half, I have just kind of paid out of pocket all the stuff for the podcast because I host it to iTunes because that's about where 70% of the people that watch the podcast watch it on iTunes, and it costs for me to do that, and I've just been paying for that because I work from home for a very tiny nonprofit, and so my very tiny salary is mine. I can do what I want to with it. It's just for yarn, and I'd been using it to pay for podcast stuff, to ship out prizes, and to pay for the iTunes hosting. But since my daughter's having these issues, I want to use that money for paying for medical stuff for her because while we have insurance, but it's good for well visits and stuff like that, it is not great on specialist things at all. I'm just having some coffee. I'm blue today. But it's not great with specialists, so I know that there's going to be a lot of medical costs coming up, and we've already gotten in some of the bills from one of her ER stays where she stayed during the night for her first allergic reaction thing. So I hope you don't mind. It won't be for forever. It'll just be for a little while till I get all that stuff sorted out and I get done paying medical bills for all her stuff and go and see specialists and things, and allergists. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know about that. And then I also wanted to say a big happy Mother's Day to all, it's Mother's Day in the United States here, a big happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, moms of babies and human babies, fur babies, angel babies. You can understand that, but won't go into that on the podcast today. But I have had a good Mother's Day, and yeah, my daughter gave me a big hug, and then my son made me this gorgeous necklace. He actually picked out the beads for it at Michael's. I was getting some stuff for friends, and we were there as a family, and he and my husband picked out these, and my son made them. I was going to wear it, but I didn't think you'd be able to see it well if I wore it. But it's all my favorite colors, green and blue and purple. And there's purple flowers, and he did 3 of them. And I was wearing it earlier. We kind of need to retie it because he did little ties for the thing, so we need to kind of double knot it so that it doesn't all fall off and have his good hard work go splattering all over the floor. But I was really touching, and my husband got me something that I almost was using today, but it's a little cooler outside, and so but he got me a David's tea, the new thing to do iced tea, and a portable making iced tea thing, which I'm really happy about. And he said he also got me a little fiber present, which hasn't arrived yet but should be coming soon. And so that's been my Mother's Day so far. Now on to finished objects. I only have one because I never knew this about myself, but apparently when I am very stressed and just anxiety, I love to wind yarn. I hate winding yarn, hate winding up cakes of yarn to knit into projects, but I apparently love to wind up yarn and cast on. Not like actually start knitting on it, just cast on like 2 rows and then put it in a bag and go and do something else. I just did not have the attention span for most of this time to actually focus on anything. So I didn't bring down all that I cast on because that would be crazy, so much stuff. But yeah, I have probably enough to where I can get through the summer or maybe the rest of the year and not need to cast on anything else except for one thing, which I'll be talking about later. But so the thing I had finished is this little hat for my daughter. I need to sew in the ends, but it is a little, I put on my Ravelry notes saying that it's the kitty cat hat. I didn't download the pattern, I just kind of looked at it, and then I've knit this similar style hat before. So what I did was just knit it like a normal hat, but I didn't decrease. I just knit till it fit her head very well, a little bit larger, and then I grafted the top. And she wanted a little bow for her kitty cat, so I knit just in garter stitch a long strip, and then I tied it around the center and pulled the ends through, and like that. So when she wears it, it looks like a little kitty cat hat, and she likes it a lot. So, and the yarn that I used for this was some Spartacus dyes, and it was in the colorway Tell Me About It Stud, which is a Grease reference, and it's from a club that I was in. So as I talked about 2 weeks ago, I was going to try out a whole bunch of different needles. And I did, but I didn't knit on them too much. I just a little bit. So pick one and show you. This is in a Tangerine Designs bag. You can probably see my daughter wanted a Mother's Day balloon. We're at the grocery store and she wanted a balloon for herself. And I was like, "Are you a mother?" And she's like, "It's always my day." So she was not happy at that point that it was like Mother's Day. Everything was like, "Oh, for mommy, for mommy." She was like, "It needs to be for me." 4-year-olds are very, like things to be for them. But so this first project in here matches the bag, which I love when that happens. Although this one was planned, but there you go. It's octopus, and then this is some Yarn Pirate in the Rust colorway. And this is a pattern that my friend Bonnie, who is Classical Cat, I think on Ravelry it's Classical Cat 07, but on Instagram it's just Classical Cat, I'm not sure. But she gifted me this pattern last year for my birthday, and it is the Galadriel, and you can't really see, I don't know, it's a sock, but then you can, cables. It forms this gorgeous cable that runs down the foot. And for my needle experiment with these, I'm using some Knit Pro Zings, and I am liking them. They're comparable, I guess, to Signature, but they don't make that sound when you rub them like Signatures do. And these do not hurt my hands like the Signatures hurt my hands. So they're a nice weight. They're not too light, not too heavy. They have a good point to them. And I am enjoying working with them. And the needles were actually a gift from my friend Celine in France. So thank you so much, Celine. And the needles kind of match too. I felt like it was all bronzy rust kind of colors. And these socks are going to be a Christmas present for my mother-in-law because she loves very intricate things, and the socks are extremely intricate. So I think she'll like those. And I need to do with that, it's very chart, every single row has stuff that you're doing with the cable. So I need to print the actual chart out and use kind of a marker to formulate where I am because I'm going to forget completely, I just know it. And then, let's see, in my Freckled Whimsy bag, just newspaper print. I was trying to find a bag that matched these socks, but I couldn't really, so I just kind of thought this went okay. But I am trying out some flip sticks. And the pattern that I am doing, these are socks for my son, and I am doing pattern by my friend BD Last G, and this is the Zig Zag Socks. And I'm using some yarn from a local knitting friend, and it is Knit Nerd, and the nerd's with a K. And the color for this is She's So Unusual. And the Zig Zag socks, you can't, I wanted to knit these for my son, and I let him pick out, like, okay, these are your, yarns that would be ones that you could choose, and he chose this one, but you can't see it yet. But I think once I've done more repeat, oh, you can kind of see it right there. Zags. I think once I've done more repeats that you'll be able to see it pretty well. And it's a very fun pattern. It's a 12-row repeat, which is nice because it's enough to where you can sit down and do a repeat and get through the whole thing. So I really like that. And then the flip sticks, when I first cast on with them, I was not sure I was going to like them because they felt so, like, if you like light needles, these are the needles for you. They are incredibly light. And I must admit, I like a little bit of weight to my needles, but once I got the sock going on these, it was fine. But this yarn does not like to be knit with, like, doing cables without a, sorry, I'm moving you a little bit because the light's starting to come in again. That afternoon light pours through the window and it just makes things fuzzy, sorry guys. But this yarn does not like to be cabled without a cable needle because it's just so slippery, even though it's a merino nylon, but it's so slippery that it kind of like would slip off. So I have been using a cable needle with that, and it's so incredibly soft. And she's on Etsy. She does all pop culture references. So She's So Unusual, I believe, is a Cyndi Lauper song, maybe. That's a little before my time, but I know my big sister liked Cyndi Lauper. And it's fun because she has pictures of the art that she, like the cover art that she does, that she mimics the yarn off of, and it matched really well. So it was cute to see. And that is my Zig Zag socks. Oh, and I wanted to say, BD Last G wrote me a while ago. I'm so sorry I haven't talked about this. It's been a lot going on. But that she was going to donate 2 copies of this pattern for people. We can do for our summer knitting socks and trying out new needles if you want to. And so I'm going to put up a thread in the group for 2 copies of this pattern, and then you can just enter and I will draw for that next week, I believe, since she told me about it so long ago. And yeah, it's a great fun pattern, and it comes in lots of various sizes too. I'm knitting the smallest size for my son, but I think it has 4 different sizes, which is wonderful when designers include all that. And then so many socks. And this, I still have the other 3 projects that I had on the needles. I just haven't been working on those. Like I tell you, I was just casting on because I could not focus on anything. But in my wonderful Suburban Stitcher bag, she was so kind and sent me a note about this fabric. She thought I might like it. And I do. And the inside has acorns, or as you would say in Japanese, I love the Japanese word for acorns, dongari. But yeah, my daughter and I like to say dongari. But this is some Luby U Legends. This was my oldest sock yarn that I had in my stash, and I'm using some knit picks. And these are wooden needles, and I'm knitting the blueberry waffle sock. And I love wooden needles. I love them so, so much. I don't care about, I know that I can be speedy. It's like one of those things, like I know that I knit the featherweight cardigan in like a couple weeks. I know that I can do a sock in a day. I know that I can be speedy, but I don't always have to be. I a lot of times just like enjoying and sitting down and like feeling the thing in my hand. And these wooden needles, they're not going to be the speediest, even though they are pretty slick because they have a good, on them. They're gorgeous. Look at that. So pretty. They're not going to be the speediest needles, but they're such a pleasure to work with. And Knit Picks has such amazing prices. So that's what the sock looks like. It's not a self-striping, but surprisingly, it's kind of spiral striping. And it's beautiful. Green, brown, purple. And this yarn is really nice. It's very cushy base. And then, next thing I have, last sock that I have to show you, is in a bag. It's so cute. This is Knit Gizmo Makes. She is my swap partner. And it's the front. I absolutely think this is such a beautiful bag. And the pink and blue, which is a color combo I'm into right now. And in here are just some plain socks. I'm using some Texas dyed wool in the Bad Ballerina colorway. And that's what it looks like. And I'm knitting these on my Knitter's Pride carbons, which I already had, and I knew that I loved them. But you can see, kind of, super, there you go, kind of. It is pink and flecks of black and different kind of shades of pink. It looks wider pink than it is, but it's almost like a powder pink. And this is great. The sock yarn feels nice. It's knitting up really nice. And I might do a contrast heels and toes, but I don't know if I have a yarn in my stash that's a pink that would go with this. So that might happen, that might not. And just has a little bit on it. Like I said, I cast these all on 2 weeks, like fairly recently, or a week and a half, a week ago, something like that. Different ones cast on a week and a half ago, different ones a week. But I didn't work on them that much. I just kind of cast on the cuff and did a little bit on them. And since I knew that I wasn't podcasting last Sunday, I spent some of this time doing other stuff other than casting on 2 rows of a whole bunch of different projects. But I did some cross stitching, which I never show on the podcast, but I worked some on my Frosted Pumpkin, the little girl on the Vespa going through countries. And I also did some prep for some sewing I'm planning on doing. And I never talk about sewing on this podcast. I probably won't ever again, but I do sew poorly. No, I sew for functionality and it works. But I get all my patterns out of this, which is the weekend sewing book. And I don't know how great this book is in comparison to other books because this is the only book I use. But it has patterns for the home, patterns to use when you're going away, dress things, pajama pants, kids stuff, and it has one that I really love, which is a headkerchief that you wear when you're out. You can kind of see she has one on there, and I love that, and I've made the pajama pants for my family out of that. But so did a little bit of that because I was like, if you have 2 weeks, you don't have to worry about having stuff to show. You already have stuff to show. And then the very last cast on that I'm going to show that I actually did more than just cast on and knit a row was a kit from O Loops that I got a while ago, and this is in the Fish Farm color, and I'm using my bag that I got at the wonderful Knitting in the Hills retreat. I like big balls and I cannot lie. It's a lovely green, which is one of my 3 favorite colors, and in here is the Marcella Rose pattern, which is just been such a joy to knit because it's funny because if you had asked me, Jeanette, what's your comfort knitting? I think that I would have said socks were my comfort knitting. When I asked my husband what he would say, he said socks or hats. Oh, we were both wrong. It is shawls. There is something about starting that little garter tab or however it starts and then just simply knitting and seeing it grow. It's just something very, very soothing about that to me, and you're maybe looking at this being like, that's not a shawl, Jeanette. Well, it started out as one. It's a cowl, it's a shawl to cowl kind of pattern, which I also love those because you don't have to worry about it falling off as you're wearing it. But so it starts off like a shawl, and then has this lovely textured area, and then just a plain, and then more texture, and there are 3 colors that came in the kit. This one, which is these lovely browns, greens, and various shades of blue. And then you had a green and a brown for the texture bits. And this has just been so great to knit on it. I'm probably going to slow down quite a bit now on it because this textured section is all full of errors because I'm not at the point right now where I can focus. I just can't. You know, I'm constantly, if I hear a noise, I am checking like, are you okay, with my daughter, which I know it's silly, but I'm just nervous. And so, you know, something where you have to kind of keep track where you are in the pattern, it's not that easy to read for me because I'm scatterbrained right now. It's all messed up, but I've just decided I don't care. But yeah, so that's been great. And I wanted to say a huge thank you to, I forgot to say this at the beginning, to everyone who wrote with advice and suggestions, and people that just said, you know, I have a child, or I myself have allergies to things, because that helped a lot to read about stuff that other people had experienced and to get suggestions and advice from you guys about what it could be and different things like that. And that, it was just really helpful. It's kind of, you know, good to have a sourcing of a whole bunch of different brains thinking about the thing. And I have some friends that have children that are anaphylactic to I have one that's, her daughter's anaphylactic to eggs. And she was always, when our kids were little, she was always super worried, like if there was anything containing eggs anywhere near. And I was always like, oh, that's, you know, I understood it, but I didn't, you know, why is she so worried? Now I get it. It's kind of one of those things, right, that you don't fully understand until you have a situation where your child is like that, and I completely get it now. So those are all the cast-ons that you haven't seen. It's all new projects that I'm going to show you, but I did want to show you a cast-on that's going to be happening later today. I'm going to be doing a Mother's Day cast-on because the sweetest girls, some of the sweetest girls, Susie and Danny, who always keep me laughing, do this every year, a Mother's Day cast-on, and I am using a bag that is new. Well, it's not new. It's new from before my daughter got sick. I ordered it the beginning of April, I believe, but it came from Australia, so it had a little ways to go. This is Girl So Sheepy, and she has one of the most beautiful Instagrams that I have ever seen. You should totally follow her there, and if you ever need to just feel calm and relaxed, go look at her Instagram pictures. This is what I'm using to house my Mother's Day cast-on. Lovely. It's just kind of cheery, and the back is this like turquoise minty blue. It's not showing up perfectly, but this is her card. Girl So Sheepy. And in here is my yarn that I'm going to be using for my cast-on. It's another shawl. I haven't wound this yet. I was tempted to, but then I wanted to be able to show you with the labels. But, ta-da! Can you see? Ooh, it looks pretty good. So, Fiber Addiction M, Sun Valley Fibers, and the Lemonade Shop. These three things, with their powers combined, are going to create, through my hands, a doodler. Which is something I've been wanting to knit for a while, and I've been wondering about colors, and I didn't know if that would work, and I think it completely works with those. So that is going to be cast on later today. I'm going to sit down and watch an Audrey Hepburn movie. She's one of the people that I admire most. I know she's no longer living, but if I could be like anybody when I grow up, I would want to be like her. She had such a kind and generous heart. And she's known only, I guess, for her acting, but she really did a lot of humanitarian work, and she really had a big heart, and she was just so kind and gentle and graceful, which is something I will probably never be. But I can do the kind and the gentle. I'm not sure about the graceful part. But so, she so kindly, when she sent me my bag, sent a bag for a giveaway, which was so very sweet of her. Thank you so much. I had no idea. And it's the cutest little bag. Isn't that fun? It's Girl So Sheepy. And it has cupcakes and donuts, and it has different little sayings on them. Cupcakes, love them, beautiful. I love cupcakes. And it has this very cheery yellow zipper on it. And the inside is pink. And it was so funny when she sent this because I was making some mini skeins for friends, and I was looking, and I have mini skeins that exactly match this bag. So with this bag by Girl So Sheepy is going to come a set of mini skeins. I have some hedgehog fibers, some skein yarn, and some very different, really fun, kind of hard to get indie dyers. I'm going to put little mini skein to go with this. So this will be up in the group for a prize, and I'll leave this one up for 2 weeks since I just got it. And then that is all of the future planning and the giveaway stuff. I'm trying to remember, I know there's something else that I wanted to say that I've completely forgotten now. But anyways, on to spinning. I have 2 finished spinning things to show you. The first one is some 2 by hand. This beautiful, beautiful bit. Those are just ties of hand spun. I think it turned out very nice. And this is for a friend, and I hope she loves it. She likes barber pulling, so hopefully that's barber pulling out. What do you think? Is that barber pulling out? But this is for a friend who I don't believe she spins, and I hope she likes it. And I'm going to give it to her. Yeah, I think it's very barber pulley. It's like barber pulley goodness. But so I hope that she likes it. And then the other thing is some hobbledehoy. And hobbledehoy always surprises me. You look at it in the little batlings and you're like, oh, that's okay. But then you spin it up and ply it and you're like, oh, that's amazing. And hobbledehoy always throws in like some color that you had no idea if it would work, and it does. But this is my last hobbledehoy. I was lamenting to my husband that I don't have anymore. I am not good at making skeins, as you can clearly see. But I think that that is beautiful. So that was my spinning. I meant to bring down actually the next bump that I'm going to spin, but I am completely on par, and one extra actually with this, for my unofficial, because I never actually posted a picture because that's what I do. I join, but I never post pictures, for the Spin the Bin challenge, which is trying to spin 12 braids of fiber in a year that the Completely Pointless and Arbitrary group has. I may be wrong about that, but so yeah, I have spun 4 braids this year, 5. And I know what my 5th one for May, my 6th one for May is going to be. It's going to be this gorgeous neutral that my in-laws picked me up when they went on a trip recently. And so group news very quickly. I talked about the giveaway for you, Girl So Sheepy, and for the BDLSG Zig Zag Socks. We have our Read Knit Cal going, which is just knit something that reminds you of something from a book, and there are 3 prizes for that, and that goes through the end of this month. And then I keep forgetting, I'm going to put up a thread today, hopefully, for the great sock needle thing, or you know, however you want to. It doesn't matter to me, I'm so laid back, but if you would like to try out a different sock needle or something like that, or whatever, if you want to try DPNs and you haven't, or a different type of DPNs, or, oh, I wanted to thank you guys. Some people mentioned to me trying 9-inch needles, and I got some to try out a little while ago, but I love these. So I have some different 9-inch ones to try out, and I haven't tried 9-inch for a while. I tried it when I first started knitting, and I didn't like it, but I think that's just because I was an inexperienced knitter. And so, yeah, so if you, however new kind of thing you want to try out, if you want to try out a new type of needle, a new brand of needle, a new, you know, anything like that, that's fine. And if anybody has sock yarn that they dye up or project bags that they do for sock yarn and they'd like to donate for that, just get in touch with me. And yeah, so, and I also wanted to say we have the 2016 Year of the Scraps, and I haven't drawn a prize for that yet, but I will next time, so get in posts of what you've been knitting up with your scraps. I've used up a ton of my scraps, but I will draw a prize for that next time, and it'll be a $7 or less pattern of your choice from Ravelry. And you have to be a member of the group for all these things. The group, I never say this, The group is the BookishStitcher podcast on Ravelry. But yeah, so I think that is, oh, and I did want to say lastly about the group. I had mentioned a while ago about putting up a list of all the books that I've reviewed on the podcast so that you guys could have that kind of as a place to go and check out if you're looking for a new book. And Yinny Knit, I believe, Yinny, Yinny, suggested a really great idea. And she suggested that because instead of me having to go back and watch 90-something episodes and write them all, is that if you guys want, you could help me. Maybe if you hadn't seen beginning episodes, or if there's an episode that you really liked and you wouldn't mind going back and watching an episode, or just watching the last 5-10 minutes to see what book it was. But if you guys could help me to kind of compile a list of all the books that I've reviewed, that would be absolutely wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a books reviewed on podcast thread, and I'll put up number like 1, 2, all through that. And then you could just comment below and say, I watched episode number 1 and you reviewed Night Watch. I'm making that up. I know I reviewed that sometime in the beginning, but I have no idea. And so I'll go up and I'll put that and be like, Ironical Knitter, my friend Jen watched this one, and my friend Jennifer watched this one, and it was this book. And then I'll just do that. Not that you have to go and watch back, Jennifer. I'm just using you as an example because you're in my head. But or because you came to my mind. But so yeah, if you want to help with that, that would be great. I know the first episodes are only on YouTube because I didn't know if I was going to get on iTunes because it costs money, but like I said before, that's where the vast majority of people watch on the podcast. And I also never say this, but if you do watch on iTunes and you like the show and you haven't left a star rating for it, that would be really lovely of you, and I would greatly appreciate it. So yeah. But that is all of the group news I can think of. I've probably missed something. But it feels very odd to have not podcast last week and now to be podcasting. So if I seem nervous, like it's my first podcast, it's just because I am nervous. But anyway, so the book this week. It is May, and it is the Choose Your Own short story for May. And there's a thread up that my friend Brenda, a Good Yarn, put up there. So please come and tell us. My throat is getting scratchy. Please come and tell us what short story you were reading. I chose a book of short stories, and it's by one of my very favorite, he hasn't written that much, so I probably shouldn't say he's my favorite, but everything that I have read by him, which is 2 books, I have loved. Anthony Marra, and this book is The Czar of Love and Techno. And it is a book of short stories, but if you don't like short stories because you don't like how there's a whole collection and none of them relate to each other, this is the book for you. If you like your short stories that interconnect and kind of tie in to become like a novel, this is the short story book for you. Hopefully it'll be out in paperback sometime soon because I know a lot of people don't like to get hardback. But this story, I don't know if he actually likes Russia, but because this story takes place, in a lot of it in Russia and different areas controlled by Russia during different times. But so it has a ballerina who kind of dances in, say, I believe Siberia. It's been a little while since I read this, but to kind of bring cheer. And then he has a man who is in charge of editing pictures and editing people out of pictures for the Stalin time, to where, Stalin and Lenin, and where there was a lot of censorship. And then there are the granddaughters of the ballerina and all these different lives interconnecting, and soldiers and people, and there's, just a whole bunch of different stories, and you don't know right away how it's going to interconnect with all the others, but by the end you do. And it's very neat to see all the different lives twined together in this book. And since it is written about Russia, I had to get it. And Anthony Marra is so good at presenting tragedy in a way that you can really relate to it, but also finding the humor in it. Like, I mean, you could be going through something completely awful, and there could still be a moment where something funny happens and you laugh. It's not all inclusive to where you're going through this war and every single moment is awful. He's very good at that. And since this is in Russian, my friend Jenna, who's Captain Stitches, is saying that she liked to hear me speak in Russian on the podcast. And so now I'm going to be totally nervous. But я немного кофе, which is I want coffee. So I немного is want, need, and coffee. But I just thought I would say that for you in case you're ever in Russia and you need coffee, because if you need coffee, you need it, right? Anyways, so this book is The Tsar of Love and Techno, and it's brilliant. He's a great writer. As I said, he's very humorous, and that's him. He's adorable. Look at that face. I will admit, I like my smart boys. I like smart, nerdy boys. And yeah, it's very easy read, with the different stories that are different, take up different amounts of time. And it's just over 300 pages. And his other book that he wrote, A Constellation of Vital Phenomena, I reviewed on the podcast, and I loved that one as well. So that is everything I have for this week. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. If I did, I will try to put it in the Ravelry group. And yeah, go there if you want to enter for the bag or the sock pattern, or just show your socks that you're knitting for that. And I'd love to have you over there. And until next week, I hope you have a great week and that you get to do all the things you love. Okay, bye guys.